tabbed before, but for some reason I forgot to mention it. But this poem was also included in Tanasha's book. And the reason why I felt it was important to share with you guys is because I feel like, I don't know when she wrote this poem, because she started writing in 2019, but who knows if she was still writing in 2020 when Kevin Samuels started going viral, when he started bashing women. But to me, it just sounded as though she may have saw one of his lives and was describing some of the things that she saw him doing on the live. This is just, again, speculation in my opinion. But I needed to read this to you and see what you guys think about it. This was a poem that I originally was intending, but I just, for some reason, overlooked it in the last two lives. But I feel it's very important to share it, so I'm just going to share it real quick. We'll break this one down, and then we will be done with this series part of Tanasha's book. But this poem is entitled Before It's Too Late. It's page 45 of the book. And this part just really made me think of Kevin Samuel. That's why I'm like, I feel like maybe she started seeing some of his videos in 2020 when he really started going viral, and maybe she drafted up this poem around that time. I don't know. I just know she started writing her poems in 2019, and she might have written this one around 2020 when she saw him going viral. But who knows? That's just my opinion. So let's read it. She said, "You like putting women down." All right? And that is something that a lot of Black women have seen on his lives, that he liked putting these women down. He made fun of them when calling them fat. Some of the women were fat. Made up even a derogatory name, in my opinion, called them Shirley and make the sound effects. Or, looked down upon women who are single. Who are single with kids or who are old. So that part, you like putting women down. That makes me think of Kevin Samuels. It makes me think of his agenda. It makes me think of how he was on those lives. She said, you wear that ill will like a crown. And it felt like that, watching his lives, it felt like he got enjoyment out of bashing these women. He'd laugh about it. It felt like he really was enjoying it, enjoying being able to tear these women down. Through his prior two marriages, he was the one feeling like, they think that they always blame the woman. So in his mind, he's thinking, these two women who, wouldn't submit. I remember I told you the doormat submit definition they have, they keep leaving me and stuff. So it's like, it feels like it's a form of revenge for him and all of the toxic manosphere who have this same resentment. Believe me, a lot of them that have connected with Kevin Samuels and have endorsed this guy's agenda is because a lot of them were bitter men who were probably narcissists, who probably had women who, or Black women who, had standards, as we talked about the prior poem. And so it felt as though she's saying, you wear that ill will like a crown. It's like you enjoy putting women down. You wear it like it's a badge of honor. That's what she's saying, in my opinion. She said, you strategize when you turn their smiles upside down. See, that's why I feel like, you guys, she was talking about those lives. I feel like maybe she watched some of those videos that went viral and was in utter disgust because she could reflect back on all of the torment he did when he would put her down. And she's like, oh, you just like putting women down. You strategize when to turn their smiles upside down. So she's saying, while you're talking to these women, this is just my opinion, guys. I'm just going to say what I feel. You guys can go with your own opinion. But she says, while you're tearing these women down, while you're on live with these women, in your mind, you're basically strategizing the very point in time that you're going to turn those little smiles, because they start out smiling when they get on the live. They're like, hi, how you doing, and stuff. And then she's saying you are literally strategizing when you are going to turn their smile when they first get on the live upside down, when you're ready to bash them. The point in time that you're ready to bash them and tear them down, he's strategizing it. And the reason why I feel like she's talking about Kevin Samuels, because she's been married to him so long. So when you've been married with someone so long, you start to understand that person's mindset. You start to understand their strategy. If they're a toxic person, kind of their modus of operandi. You notice how they operate. Right? So she could sit there and watch these lives. I'm just giving my opinion. She could sit there and watch these lives, and she can tell the point in time of what he's thinking. She can tell his strategy. She can tell what he's done because she's been there before. She's been there before. She's experienced him putting her down. So that's why I just feel like this poem just made me feel like she was watching those lives. Because you secretly wear a frown. She's saying you enjoy tearing these women down because you're hurt yourself. So it gives you enjoyment to tear these women down because you're broken yourself. That's what I think she's saying. She said, you're consumed with your own misery. And that's true. A lot of these narcissists, in my opinion, like Kevin Samuels, they are miserable. And so they want you to feel miserable. They don't want you to feel happy because they're miserable themselves. Jealous by their success. Bam, that's very important. What did Kevin Samuels do when a woman had a career? He went to start ripping them apart. There's so many lives of women that's talking about their professions, and the woman who had her own business, she was average at best. Didn't matter what her career was. He went in to tear them down, and a lot of reviews out there talk about possibly having an envy of their success. And she probably thought that about him when she was married to him, because she had a lot of success. She was a very well accomplished actress. She plays in a lot of movies and short films. One of her movies is called Wounded, if you want to go look that one up and watch it. But she has a lot of notoriety, success. She has a degree. She has her own business, all these things. And, men that don't have much going on for themselves, at the time when he met her, he was at Home Depot and he worked at a fitness center, making a little over $47,000 a year. Who knows if she was making more than him? And so he's on these lives seeing all these women with all these high degrees. There's indications that he never really finished his engineering degree. I think he dropped out because he had cancer. So he's looking at all these women that have all these nice degrees, bachelors, careers. And so she's saying, you're jealous by their success. So you get an enjoyment out of tearing these successful women down. And I told you in my previous live in part 2 that narcissists love to be able to get a woman who is in higher stature than them, higher degrees, higher prestige, higher careers. They like to get those women, and then they like to work on tearing them down, because that builds their self-esteem and their feelings and their ego up, because they're already broken. Narcissists are already wounded, broken children inside that are really, really insecure. And so because they're broken, they want to break down people that they feel are in their mind, or they perceive are higher than them. So a lot of these men like Kevin Samuels resent success, they resent notoriety, and so they get a huge satisfaction out of tearing women who have high professions, high success, high accomplishments down. And as we have seen in recent times, a lot of Black women have high notoriety. A lot of Black women are going to school. They have very high careers. You've seen a lot of those women that would go on Kevin Samuels' lives. They had very successful careers. They're highly educated. And so she's saying, he was enjoying putting them down, and he was jealous. He envied their success. And so the way to make him feel good about himself was to tear these women down. This is just my opinion. I could be maybe misinterpreting her poem differently, but I'm just saying what I feel, right? Based on looking at and analyzing and providing my commentary on her poem. Pretending to love and enhance their ability. What does the Manosphere say all the time about Kevin Samuels? He was telling the truth. He was trying to help you. He was trying to bring the Black community together. Those are all smoke screens. They are all forms of gaslighting, and it's a form of pretending. They pretend, like, in my opinion, they pretend as though, or he pretended as though he was trying to bring the Black community together. He was pretending as though he was trying to help the Black woman. But in reality, no, he was trying to bash the Black women and reap revenge on them because of all the hurt and resentment and bitterness he had inside based upon those first marriages that he never got over. That he had so much resentment towards, that he carried along with him throughout his life and truly never got over it. I don't think so, in my opinion, based on his performance and behavior in those different lives with some of the similarities of women from his past. It seemed, in my opinion, to believe that this man was pretending like he was helping these women, but he was really getting enjoyment out of bringing them down, knowing strategically when he was going to turn their smiles when they first got on those lives upside down, meaning embarrassing and humiliating these highly accomplished women as his form of revenge, in my opinion. When deeply, you're an effing mess. You're an effing mess. So she's saying, you over here on these lives, I'm just giving my opinion, on these social media lives, pretending like you have it all together. Like you just have the medicine to heal these women and educate these women, pretending as though you're helping the black community and you're bringing, restoration to the black community by educating the women. But she's saying, when deep down you hide that you're a mess. And based on the stuff that we have unfolded in this story, guys, it is developed on many different platforms. If you guys have been watching the different platforms, there has been a ton of mess that has come out allegedly about Mr. Samuels, and that he wasn't all that he displayed himself to be, this high value man. And, the first marriage, he was, skipping out on court dates, getting warrants issued for his arrest. I mean, bailing out on his kid, moving from Oklahoma to Texas, in the middle of a divorce proceedings, just skipping out of town, never letting anyone know where he's at. Um, you know, so, that does not sound like a high value man that he was trying to educate allegedly men about. And so she's like, you doing all this stuff on live, but you're just really a mess. Because she knows more than we know, right? She was married to this man. She knows his ins and outs. So she's saying, you over here playing a little role. You trying to pretend up and down. You're Mr. Perfect. All right. So this is just my opinion. Again, I don't know if she's talking about Kevin Samuels, but to me, it sounds like she is. Okay. You guys make your own opinions up. So then she says, when will you realize your insecurity is your fall? All right. And what did I say about the narcissist? Narcissists are very insecure, and they experience these narcissistic injuries when you call them out on their mess, or if you have a higher prestige than them and you educate, them on something. There were times on those lives when there were educated women that, were basically calling him out on his mess. They almost were about to give him a schooling, and then he would cut him off and he would hang up. He wouldn't give him any shot or any chance at giving their opinion. And when he knew that it was going to get to the point where they were going to, basically outstand or overstep his point that he was trying to make, then he would immediately cut them off from not allowing them to finish, or hanging up on them, or being even more toxic towards them, because he didn't want them to unfold his insecurity that he truly was feeling inside about himself. Right. And so he was getting all this elevation by tearing down all these different women who had all this prestige. And you notice how he always asked them preliminary questions: height, size, looks, all that stuff. If they got a career, that's a big thing he likes to really hinge on. And then he uses these key points to just tear them down. And a lot of times these were hitting at points where he had felt memories back to all the alleged hurt, blame shaming, the prior two wives that fit the same criteria that he was despising in the black women that were coming on his lives. And she's saying, when will you realize your insecurity is your fall? I wonder if she was sitting there watching those lives just angry, like, look at this man over here tearing all this women down. You just like putting people down, huh? Like you did to me. And now you're trying to act like you, Mr. Know-it-all, and you're getting all this enjoyment of tearing these women down, just waiting for the moment to turn their smiles upside down. Okay, when in reality, you're not happy with your own life. You have your own insecurities. And when are you going to realize that it's you that have the issues? I think that's what she was saying. I really do. I think she was sitting there just like, no, Mr. Samuels, I know exactly who you are. You see, these women don't go into your lives and all these people following you around like you are God, in my opinion. But really, you're an effing mess. That's what her words were. That's not my words. That's her words right there. When deeply, you're an effing mess. It's over there. So she said, the fear you live by keeps you against the wall. Not the women who've tried to love you. All right. The fear you live by keeps you against the wall. The fear that you have inside, your own insecurities, is what's holding you back. It's not the women. Stop blaming us, because we've tried to love you. We tried to help you, but you don't want to deal with your mess. That's what I think she's saying, in my opinion. All right. I think that's what she's saying. I'm just trying to, examine what I think she's saying. She says, you constantly keep them at bay. Wait, I missed a part. She said, not the women who tried to love you and show you a better way. So it seems like, women are caretakers. When they can see that their man has issues or they need some help, they feel like, they want to be the empath and help the man. If, and the men, narcissists play the victim role. They are very good at playing the victim role. They'll come to you and they will complain about what all their exes did. and how they're the victim, and they give you this little pity party about their life has just been tormented by such and such and such and such, and they never take any responsibility for themselves. So then the women who are, involved in those relationships, being the empath that most of them are, they start to feel empathy and they start to get brainwashed and they think, oh, I'm so sorry, you poor thing, let me try to help you, right? So she's saying, we tried to love you, we tried to show you a better way, but you constantly keep them at bay, meaning you don't let us in. You don't let us in. You keep this wall up that's holding you back in your life. You're the real person that has the mess, but you won't deal with that mess. You just enjoy putting other people down, women in particular. Rejecting their flaws and lack of perfection. So he's saying he would like to keep these women at bay, keeping them at a distance, and he rejects the things that he finds wrong with them, rejecting their flaws, lack of perfection. So a lot of these narcissists, she's saying he wanted perfection from her, perfection from all these women, rejecting the things that he didn't like about them, their flaws, right? Their lack of perfection. So he was never happy. He was always complaining, in my opinion. He's always pointing out what their problems are and never looking internally. He wants to tear down bits and pieces of that woman, which is, in my opinion, what I've seen on a lot of those lives with those Black women. Just having a party of tearing down bit by bit, piece by piece, every flaw and lack of perfection in each of those women. It was like he was sitting there asking all these questions to try to pinpoint where that woman's flaw was in his mind, and then how he can strategically tear that woman's self-esteem down and make her feel less than worthy, make her feel hopeless in her ability to find a good man, a high value man, in his flawed, decrepit description of what he thinks is a high value man. I think that's just his opinion. I don't think it's the accurate definition of what a high value man is, but you be the judge. It's just my opinion. But again, he rejects their flaws. And if you watched part 1 of my review of her book, there was a part where she said she didn't feel loved for who she was. She felt like this. I feel like she was talking about Kevin Samuels, that she had to always change who she was, and she wanted someone who loved her for all of her. So it felt as though, Kevin Samuels, and it sounds like him because he was like that on those lives, constantly picking apart and rejecting flaws and lack of perfection. It's like, if you're not perfect, then he's gonna rip you apart. He's trying to look for what is in his mind he finds to be a flaw, or what he thinks is wrong with you. And that's what I kind of seen in those videos, because it would seem like he'd be fishing for things. He'd ask all these questions, and finally when he got what he wanted, that flaw that he was trying to find, then he starts ripping the girl apart, on the live. Because I would watch and I'd see how he would operate, and it's like he's asking all these series of questions, and then finally he gets to that one answer he wanted to hear, which is the flaw or the lack of perfection that he wanted to pinpoint, and then he starts his bashing session, in my opinion. All right? So when it's actually your own reflection, she's like, you're over here projecting, you're over here pointing out all these different women's flaws and lack of perfection, but reality, it's really you that has the issues. That's what she's saying. You're really the one that has the problems, and you won't look internally. And that's the problem with the Manosphere. The Kevin Samuels Manosphere is they never do self-reflection, ever. You cannot ever tell a Manosphere man that they have done something wrong. You can't. They are Mr. Perfect. They can do no wrong in their very deceived mindset. And you're always the problem. You have the flaws. You need to fix it in their mind. You are a lack of perfection. All right. But you don't look at your own. But the problem she's saying is Kevin Samuels. I think she's talking about Kevin Samuels. When it's actually your own reflection. You're the one that has the problems. You're the one that have the flaws. You don't need to deal with yourself, but you won't do that. You blaming everybody else. That's what I think she's saying. Then she says, you can't stand to see them fly. That's deep. She's like, you can't stand to see them succeed. You can't stand to see these women, soar in what they're doing. You can't stand to see them have a very succinct, effective response to some of your questions. You have to break them down. You just can't stand to see them succeed. It makes you angry. So you got to do everything in your power to tear them down, even to the point of hanging up on these women, tearing them down verbally, laughing at them, doing sound effects, whatever you need to do. But whatever you can do to avoid them from succeeding, seeing them fly, seeing them aspire or be successful, even if it's in that type of, social media set of when he's interviewing these women. And I have seen parts where women are making good points on those lives, and then he starts getting more aggressive towards them, and then he ends up hanging up on some of them. He doesn't ever let them get their point across, especially though really smart women that get on there and they're ready to get a good point. He's like, oh nope, he cuts them off, he gets aggressive. And I actually watched an old video. Somebody warned me about this, and I'm glad I had some beautiful subscribers. I love you guys. Like I said, I gave you guys a new name thanks to, I think it's Purple Love. Shout out to her. And it was another subscriber that gave you guys the name. It's called the Esquire Squad. So we finally have a name now for our group. But someone in the Esquire Squad pointed out that the Struggle Streaming Attorney, or actually there was a video out there from Struggle Streaming Attorney, right? And this was like a year ago, guys, before Kevin Samuels had passed away, or a couple of years ago. One of the individuals that had been subscribed to Struggle Streaming Attorney, they subscribed to him, and they had a problem with his interpretation of the Bible. They had a huge issue with it, so they spoke out against it on their personal YouTube platform. And you already know Struggle Streaming Attorney has a habit of, in my opinion, going after those people who exercise their constitutional right to free speech. He doesn't like to, in my opinion, follow the Constitution. I don't think he has any, I believe, have any belief in the Constitution based on his behaviors lately. I don't know. But this guy, he went on his YouTube live, and he was voicing his opinion, his opposition. It's out there. You can look up this guy's. You can look up Struggle Streaming Attorney's name in the search of YouTube, and hopefully that guy's YouTube pops up again. He had a pretty small channel, and it didn't get much views, but he was basically complaining about how he really was concerned and had a disdain about how Struggle Streaming Attorney was interpreting the Bible, and he felt as though he was misquoting the Bible and basically exalting the rich man and demeaning the poor man. And there was a scripture in the Bible, I don't know what it was, but it was something to that effect, that he felt that Struggle Streaming Attorney was misinterpreting, and he really had an issue with it. So of course, being Struggle Streaming Attorney, he goes after the guy. Allegedly, that's what this guy says on his YouTube. And then the guy, unfortunately, goes on to Struggle Streaming Attorney page and goes on a live. And I don't know if you guys heard me talk about this in another video. One thing you don't do with people like that is don't go on their live. Their whole strategy is to make a complete fool out of you. They're not going to let you speak. Anytime you make a point or you're trying to fly, meaning here, this word here, you're trying to bring your point across and it's going to be effective, they'll cut you off. So I watched the live where the poor guy, he went on the guy's live. He should have never did that. Never go into the territory of your enemy's platform, because they have control. They have control over everything. They can hang up on you. They can do whatever they want. So the guy goes on there, not realizing what he's getting himself into. He goes on the live trying to defend his part for why he has a disagreement with Struggle Streaming's misinterpret of the Bible. And of course, Struggle Streaming does not allow this guy to make any point at all. He keeps cutting him off. He seems to be very assertive and aggressive on the live, and just keeps interrupting the man. So the man doesn't even get a chance to get anything across. And he's like, you're not letting me speak. I'm trying to explain what I mean. And you just kept cutting him off. Any chance, he never had a chance to explain. So that's the thing. They want to just make it sound like, oh, come to my channel. Let's work together. Let's be a team. Hey, subscribers, go over to such and such channel and tell that person to come to our channel so we can work together as one. And it's all a lie. Okay? It's all a strategy to bring you on the show, to turn your spout upside down, to make a complete fool of you, allegedly. All right? So that's what I feel like this kind of goes into. They can't stand to see you fly, meaning they can't stand to see you get any type of success or advancement, or even get your point across in a good argument. And if you're effective and you're really getting a point across, and if you're on, like, for example, on a narcs live or whatever, they will interrupt everything. And you can see that was Kevin Samuel's strategy and narc attorneys' strategy on their lives. They like to cut people off, and they like to interrupt. They never give you a chance to make a point. And that is a strategy. It's a key strategy of what these alleged narcs do. Again, this is just my opinion. It is not a fact, but it's my personal opinion and what I've been seeing in these streets, allegedly. All right. You sabotage, leaving them asking why. All right. You run back from whence you came. So you sabotage, leaving them asking why. So you sabotage these relationships, she's saying. And then you leaving them wondering, like, why? Like, why did this relationship fail? Like, what happened? Leaving them into a state of confusion. And that's a lot of things that these narcs do. They do like kind of mental scrabble on your mind. And so you're left confused and puzzled about, like, why? Why did you sabotage the relationship? Okay. And she's like, run back from whence you came. Don't come back over here. We done. Go back to where you came from. Basically what she's saying there. Okay. To hibernate, then again, to begin the game. And a lot of the narcissists, they have a game. It's all a game. I told you, like, it's nothing new under the sun. It's like a key strategy that they have. You emerge as if you are the victor. You're the one that won the situation. You know, so their whole point is to tear you down, bring you down emotionally, tear down your self-esteem. And they feel like once they feel like they've done that to you or punished you in their mindset, they are the winner. They have the victory in their mind. This part is deep, guys. But you're a small man. You're a small man. You think you're just Mr. Big and Bad, but deep down mentally, you're a small man that has a wounded ego. And the only way that you can feel validated is tearing down someone's bigger than you. You know, that what they think to be bigger than them, being more successful, more notoriety. They look for women that have this notoriety so they can tear them down. That's the whole point. That's why you notice on these lives, anyone that had that notoriety or success or high esteem, whatever it was, that was the person he was looking for to tear down. You picked her, right? You strategically picked her for the things that she had. Like I just talked about, notoriety, education, prestige, high value in terms of maybe career status, 6 figures, whatever. Then you contradicted her, you afflicted her, you predicted her. Key things. So you get her, you pick her for all the qualities you're looking for. You want to target your particular prey, got to have that high notoriety. Then you start tricking her, you start gaslighting her, start tearing her down, making her feel confused, making her think you're into her, all that good stuff. And then when you get her, you love bombed her. Now you start contradicting her. Now you start playing all the gaslighting, mind games, projection, making her feel as though she lacks any form of confidence in her ability to identify the key issues in the relationship. And so she's running around thinking it's her fault. All right. You afflicted her with emotional abuse, emotional trauma, low self-esteem. They mentally tear you all the way down to a point of mental nothing. That's how this process happens in these mental narcissistic abusive relationships, in my opinion. And you predicted her. This is very key right here. They predict her because they've already picked her out. They know how she functions. They spend the time getting to know her. They ask her key questions to figure out what triggers this woman, what gets a reaction out of her, things like that. Then they start the dismantling process. And they already can predict what is going to be the end result from the very beginning when they first picked her out and began this whole stage. This to me is a whole stage of a narcissistic abusive relationship. She just walked us through the whole steps. She just had her own words of describing it. You picked her. You found your prey, the one you particularly wanted. You have to find key characteristics so you get to know her, find out what's her. You see how Kevin Samuels always did the picking? Age, name, weight, career. Start the picking process. All right, that's what they do on the dating arena, though. When they're dating these women, they find out name, age, all that good stuff. What's your career? What's your notoriety? All that good stuff. Okay, so she is better than me. She has a higher status than me. Now let me trick her. Let me start love bombing her. I found the woman I want to start to be my next victim. Now I'm gonna start the love bombing stage. That's tricking her. Then after you got her all in love and she's ready to go, now you start the gaslighting, contradicting her, afflicting her, and then you predicted the whole thing that she was going to be broken down emotionally. Now you're ready to discard her because you already accomplished all the narcissistic stages of the narcissistic abusive relationship, in my opinion. All right? In my opinion. Understand, though, there's always consequences to your flow. So I feel like she was trying to warn him, in my opinion. I believe she's talking to Kevin Samuels, or just in my opinion. There's always consequences to the bad seeds you sow. So she's saying, you think you're getting away with it now. You think you're over here, parading around, victimizing these women, including myself, and you're just getting all this victory, but realize there's always going to be seeds or fruit that you reap from the seeds that you sow. There's consequences that are going to eventually come down the line. That's what I believe she was trying to say to him. Woo! This part right here. That's why I wanted to show you guys this poem. I know I had to do part 3. Sorry, guys. I was trying to do this all in one video, but, there were some oversights based upon my busy schedule. So it had to be broke down in 3 sections. But this is right here, guys. This is right here. I feel like, guys, I know people, they don't believe in the spiritual aspect, but this part, I feel like she was predicting the demise of Mr. Samuels. I believe this. Okay, I believe this. My theory is that she wrote this around 2020 because she started in 2019 writing these poems, but of course she's been continuing writing her poems. And I believe so around the time in 2020. That's just my own theory. I don't know when she wrote this one, but I just think so. Just based on reading through the poem and just feeling the things that I feel based on what I told you guys so far. But look at this part right here, guys. Before you know it, God will show it. She said, understand, though, there are consequences to your flow. Before you know it, God will show those consequences to you. And those consequences were very, in my opinion, if the consequences are what the consequences we have right now is going on this month, they were pretty drastic consequences where this Mr. Samuels has prematurely passed away at age 53. That is too young for anyone, in my opinion, to pass away. So I don't know, guys. I'm just thinking with my theory and my opinions. I feel like she predicted saying, hey, if you keep up with this down this route of abusing, being toxic to all these different women, you're going to reap the consequences. And before you even know it, God will show it. I wish I had a sound effect right there, because that right there, woo, that was powerful. I really think she was speaking to Mr. Samuels. I really do, guys. That is my opinion. Those words are too powerful. They're too much in context to what has been happening and what I've seen on his lives and different things like that, and her past relationship and allegedly the length of that relationship. It just sounds like Mr. Samuels. And what happened recently in this month? Why are we talking about this current event? That he sadly passed away at way too young of an age. Way too young. Way too young. It's very disappointing that this man died at 53. He should still be here. It's just, to me, I felt like there was something spiritual or something not right about the whole thing from the beginning when we first talked about this story. When we got on the live, I was telling you guys I felt either it was spiritual or something in the story doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel right. So, her saying that, guys, that part is powerful. I want you guys to really get that book and sit and dissect this poem so you can get an understanding for yourself and develop your own opinion of who you think and what you think she's talking about. Believe in him or not, he's going to touch your right spot. Wow. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. And this woman's a very spiritual woman. She's very, very spiritual. She's in tune with God. She's a very prayerful woman. This woman is, if you look her up, she is prayerful. She's very deeply devoted to God. And so I don't know what God showed her in the spirit realm, or maybe during her prayer or whatever, or was she foreshadowing, this unfortunate situation, because this is not a celebration. This man died, and it's unfair that he died so young. But it feels as though she was predicting his demise. It feels like that. Man, that's powerful. But I got to read that again, guys. I have to read that again. Before, she said, believe. Let's go right here. This part is just too deep. Let me read it again. Before you know it, God will show it. All right, that's deep. Then she says, believe in him or not, whether you believe it or not, he's going to touch your right spot. Ooh. I wish it was a lesser spot than what happened to poor Mr. Samuels. I wish it wasn't this finality that happened. Maybe a lighter spot, but unfortunately it just seems as though she was talking about this situation, or she foreshadowed it, maybe inadvertently didn't realize it. And it's pretty sad. I wish maybe it was a lesser consequence than this, but woo, the consequences of our choices can lead to significant demise. The things that we choose in life can lead down certain situations. And if you are so destructive to the kingdom of God and pushing this very destructive, toxic agenda, in my opinion, to the point where it is destroying the very principles of God on a larger scale, it can lead to significant demise. I mean, if you go to the Old Testament, you will see different times where God didn't play. He did not play with his people. There was times when this man in here, he just merely lied about something and he got struck down. Him and a woman. They said a lie, a mere lie. It was just a little lie, a little small lie, white lie. And God wiped them out. Within a second, they were gone. So, I mean, God does not play. He does not play. Okay? We don't play with this spiritual stuff. We don't play with the choices we make. God will give us forgiveness, and he will give us redemption, and he will give us mercy, and he's very loving. But we have to make a choice to turn away from our ways, and we have to repent. But if we keep going, and it is to the point where it's so destructive, so significantly destructive, and it to the point where it's literally destroying the very principles of God on a wide scale, and you're leading his people astray. Because God is very much into the marriage environment. He wants the monogamy. He's not into polygamy. He wants a monogamous relationship into a covenant type relationship. So if you're pushing polygamy and pushing, being able to share your man and all these different orgies, whatever stuff, allegedly, I'm just saying, if you're pushing that type of agenda out there to the masses, that's going against the very goals and principles that God has implanted in his word and what he stands for. So if you're leading his people astray, that deeply grieves the Lord. And I'm not saying, again, I don't want people get offended thinking I'm not speaking on behalf of God. I don't know if this is, I don't know. I'm just, trying to interpret what I'm reading from her poem and giving my, analysis of it. So again, she could be going a whole different way with this. I'm just trying to analyze what she's saying, okay? We don't even know if this is even spiritually written. We don't know what really happened. It's a tragedy. He died at way too young, okay? But I'm just saying, I'm looking at some of the things I saw in the Bible, in my different review of the Bible, and looking at some of the things, when people did things, or Sodom and Gomorrah. Remember Sodom and Gomorrah? They were in all kinds of wicked things. And it was such a large scale of perversion and sin on a huge level with a mass of a whole huge environment. When it's on that large of a scale, it disturbs the heart of the Lord so much that is as if he has to act to protect his people on a larger scale. He has to protect his people, so he has to sometimes make these grandiose decisions. And again, I'm not saying this is from God. I don't know, guys. I'm just saying from what I've seen in the Bible. I'm just using the things I've seen in the Bible. Okay, so don't get offended saying, "Oh, you trying to say it's karma." I don't know if it's karma. Okay, I'm not trying to sit here and judge this man. I'm just analyzing this story. All right, but I'm just looking at the Bible and the things I've read in the Bible. He took out the entire Sodom and Gomorrah. And if you read that story, a lot of them were into the orgies and all kind of perversion and all kinds of things. And it disgruntled the Spirit of God. And so when you're doing something like that and you take this example and you're misleading God's people, telling them, hey, you need to share your man. Is that what God wants? Does God want you to have open marriages with multiple women in there? He doesn't want that. He talks about exclusivity. He talks about, marriage. He talks about adultery. Those are things he despises, adultery. So if you're out teaching millions and millions of people that, hey, if you have kids or if you're at a certain age, you need to go ahead and just be in adultery. That's what it sounds like. You need to go ahead and share your man with different women. God had to see that. And that's misleading millions of people against the principles of God. And in situations like that, and again, I'm not saying this applies to Kevin Samuels, but I'm just saying, I'm just looking at Sodom and Gomorrah and trying to apply it to the scenario here. When you're misleading God's people to such a mass, grandiose manner, sometimes it's to the point where God feels as though he has to act. Now, nothing bad comes from God, but he will allow it to act, meaning Satan will come on in, say, God, can I do this to this person? And God will go ahead and give the permission. Say, hey, go ahead. And I get that idea from Job's story, when Job was worshiping God and Satan came to God and said, well, can I go ahead and oppress him? And we'll see if I press him, then he's going to stop serving you. He's going to curse you and die. So God said, okay, go ahead. You can go ahead and press him, but just don't kill him. Don't harm him. Don't take his life. So he gave him the certain level at which he could oppress him, right? And to a certain limit, he couldn't go past that limit that God had given him. So I'm looking at that story and I'm trying to apply it to the scenario we have here. And I'm thinking, God could have gave the green light. I don't know. I don't know. I can't speak for God, so I don't know. I'm just saying, I'm just thinking in my own opinion. What if there was a green light given to say, you know what, this is way too much for my people. I've saw too much. I tried to warn this person so many times to stop what they're doing. They're not listening. And I got to save my people by making this decision. I don't know, though. I cannot speak for God. I'm just trying to read what she's saying and trying to see if I can get an idea what she's saying. So please don't attack me in the chat. I'm just saying what I'm saying. I'm not happy to see this poor man die at 53. I don't like the things that he taught. I don't like his agenda. I feel like it's antichrist, in my opinion. I feel like it's against the principles that God has taught in the Bible, in my opinion. But again, I don't like to see someone die. And it's so sad, Like I said, I wish it was a lesser, a lesser God will show it here, and that, believe in him or not, he's going to touch your right spot. Like I said, I wish it was a lesser touch of the spot. I wish it was like he was still here. Maybe he learned his lesson and be here alive to try to see if he can learn. But this was a drastic consequence, in my opinion. It's drastic. This spiritual thing is real. I don't care if anybody can get my chat trying to say they don't believe in God. I believe in God. So just take it as you leave it. I believe in God. I believe in the spirituality world. I believe in the Bible. And I have seen way too many things in my life to reverence his word and reverence the things that he teaches. And I'm very careful about the things that I say because I don't want to lead anyone astray. Period. I don't want to lead anyone astray, because that's a serious thing that I believe, in my opinion. I don't know how God really looks at this, but I believe, in my opinion, that God sometimes, and I'm not speaking on his behalf because I don't know, will sometimes have to, allow certain things to happen to protect the welfare of his overall people when it's a mass of people that you're leading astray into that Sodom and Gomorrah type mindset. It makes me believe, in my personal opinion, that sometimes God has to act and protect his people on a larger scale. He's like, oh, I'm just getting too far. I've been watching this for way too long. I've tried to tell this person to stop. They're not listening. I got to do something. I got to act quick to protect my people. That's just what I think. But I don't know. Take it as a grain of salt, guys. Let's move on to the next part. But this was so deep here. I wanted to really take time to kind of analyze maybe what she was getting at. I don't know. I probably went way far left. Who knows? You guys formulate your own opinions. This is just my personal opinion. All right. So show you what it's like to not take flight. Uncovering your blind eyes and malice heart. So that's saying you fail to even see where you're going wrong. You fail to see the issues that you're causing, the pain that you're causing. You're not looking at yourself, and you have this cold, dark, decrepit heart, right? So you can stop tearing others apart. So show you what it's like to not take flight. Uncovering your blind eyes, meaning I'm hoping that the Lord will show you where you're going wrong. I'm praying that the Lord will open your eyes and will show you where your malice heart is, show you your dark heart, and that you can change. I think that's what she was praying for here. She's like, hey, I'm praying that God will show you where you're going wrong, and that he will show you that you have this dark, malicious heart. And she was praying that he would change. And she's praying that, he will stop tearing people apart. Stop tearing all these women down. Stop tearing, you tore me down. Now you're tearing people down on a larger scale now. I'm praying the Lord will show you your ways and that you will turn away and you will stop tearing people apart. I think that was her prayer. She probably didn't realize on this grandiose situation that this drastic situation would happen. That wasn't, what she was looking out for. I think her whole hope was that he would change. He would come to realization that he was going down the wrong path. He's steering these people wrong, and that hopefully in the name of Jesus, he would turn away, but sadly that didn't happen. She said, leading you to a crossroad, seeing which way you choose. So it's like she's praying that God will open your eyes, show you where you're going wrong, where your dark heart is, and then lead you to a path of choosing this day whom you are going to serve. Are you going to change your ways and you're going to start serving God and start teaching his principles? Or are you going to choose a destructive path and keep going down this dark path of deceiving his people? Because It doesn't matter who you are, you're his child. He's created you. All right. He knows the number of hair that's on your head. He knows every single thing about you. And so he loves his people. And so when he sees his people as being led astray, it deeply wounds him. And especially when it's a large amount of people that are just so blinded, by the deception. And so she was hoping in her heart that he would choose the right way to go down the right path, change from the wrong agenda that he was going forward, and begin to teach the right ways in which the Lord has wanted to be taught. That's what I'm thinking. I could be totally wrong, guys. My opinion. My opinion. All right. If you don't take the right one, if you don't take the right one, if you don't choose ye this day whom you will serve, if you don't choose the path of God, you will definitely continue to lose. Mm, 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 mm. I felt like that's why this was a gut wrenching poem, guys. I felt like I needed to come back on this live and really read this one because I feel like she was truly speaking, in my opinion, to Kevin Samuels, and she was warning him to turn away from his wicked ways, to choose the path of God, to teach the principles of God, and that she was hoping the Lord would show him the right path and for him to identify and see where his dark heart is and to change and choose to serve God and turn away from this wicked way of teaching. But she said, if you don't, you're going to continue to lose. You're going to still fail and see destruction. Now the Manosphere is going to say he didn't lose. He got all this money and whoop whoop boo, and he had some Latina who was with him that night, so he had all this stuff. But he did lose. He lost his life at such a young age at only 53, and it's a tragedy. It's so disappointing to see this man who just rose to fame in 2 years, I would say, and he can't even really reap all the long-term benefits of all the things that he's done because he chose to go down this path of destruction of leading, in my opinion, God's people astray, leading these women down a form of fornication, promiscuity, low self-esteem, destruction to these women's viewpoints, and completely brainwashing and destroying the Black community's mindset of relationships, in my opinion. In my opinion. In my opinion. And it feels as though this agenda has truly dismantled the Black community relationships to where it's going to be many, many decades before it can ever be restored, if ever. That's sad, if ever. He did make a horrible, damaging impact on the Black community, in my opinion, and I feel like he's divided it. Now, everybody's subject to their own opinion. There are people in the Manosphere who are flawed and jaded, in my opinion, who are bitter and have heartbreak, and they really think that Kevin Samuels helped them out, and that is their opinion. I respect their flawed opinion, but I'm staying with my opinion. And I feel from based on the people that I have seen who have listened to Kevin Samuels, and I can see their relationships, and it just seems very just toxic and broken and just, oh, it's just terrible. Like the way even some men I've seen who have left their wives, they were happy in the marriage before they started listening to Kevin Samuels, and all of a sudden they're leaving their wives and, oh, you need to share me now because you got this and that and other. All the things they're hearing from him, and they're just taking it, as the gospel and trying to, really keep their relationships together. They're looking and considering to leave or start, opening their marriage up to other people and stuff like that, like pushing all these polygamous adultery type agendas that is dismantling the very core values of God. And in my opinion, God does not play with that. He doesn't. So one of the key things we got to really be careful of is leading God's people astray. Okay, no, nobody's perfect. We all make mistakes in our life. But when you start guiding and misguiding the very body of Christ, even if the person isn't even in God, like they could just be in the world, but you're still God's child. Everyone he's created, all his creation is his. So when you start educating people on a large platform and start leading them away from the Bible and the very principles that God endorses and he is very passionate about, he's very passionate about his principles that he stands by in his word. And it deeply wounds him in my that's based on what I've seen in his Bible in the Old Testament. When I've seen him look over the people who had been sinning, especially Sodom and Gomorrah. If you read that story, you could see the emotional pain that he went through, God, because he loves his people, when he saw them in all this sin. It really wounded him to the point where it gave him a spiritual type of anger, a spiritual anger. And so he felt at that time during Sodom and Gomorrah, he had to take them out. He had to take them out. He didn't want to take them people out, but they weren't listening. They wouldn't turn away from their ways. And he was like, I got to do this because I've tried to talk to them. I've tried to tell them about my principles. They're not listening. And so, that's what he had to do. So this poem here, guys, is so deep. It is just so like captivating and deep and just is gut wrenching. And actually, it really kind of humbly, in my opinion, warns us all. Not just in my opinion, Kevin Samuels. I do think, in my opinion, I do think she was talking about Kevin Samuels. I'm just saying, but I feel like it warns us all. We can always learn something from each person's life, any consequences that those people face in life, and we can apply it to our life because none of us are perfect. But we can learn from these consequences to say we need to have a reverence for God. We need to have a reverence for His Word, and really, really be prayerful about the things that choices we make, the guidance that we give to people, the misguidance, and be prayerful and, be humble and really listen to the word of God and listen to his guidance and really be careful about trying to mislead God's people because God does not play when it comes to his people. He does not play. Be very, very, very careful. He doesn't. In fact, there was an example out there. There was this female comedian, all right? I think this happened earlier this year. You guys probably know about this. The female comedian, she mocks God on the stage. She makes a joke about God. And as soon as she finished making the joke about God, she fell out and had a concussion right on the stage. It's right on camera and everything. She makes a joke about God, falls out immediately thereafter, and gets a concussion. It was like, man, that was like gut wrenching. It was like, man, do not play with God. Do not joke about God. Do not. That was like, to me, if people didn't believe in God, if you watch that video of her making the joke and then immediately thereafter falling out and getting a concussion, she almost died. Thank God she made it. I mean, God gave her a second shot. It was like, you need to act right. He gave her another chance on this earth. But she was, and still, till this day after she had the concussion, she still got on camera acting like she didn't know what happened. Girl, you know what happened. You know why you fell out, girl. It was right after you said that joke about God, you fell out. Come on now. Come on now. So those are some of the examples. We just got to be careful, got to be prayerful, and we have to have a reverence for God, and especially the things that we're teaching people. If we're given a platform, if we're given some form of success and leadership, you got to be careful, very careful about the things you're teaching. All right, guys, let me know what you guys think. Take care.